Happy Halloween, Internet! Today, as we celebrate the spooky and the scary, I thought we'd have some fun with a holiday deck profile designed to haunt and horrify your opponents. So trick or treat, the Ghostricks are here to eat, and we're going to get right into it. To start, we have 16 Ghostrick monsters in our main deck. All of these monsters share the effect that they can't be normal summoned unless you already control another Ghostrick monster. This encourages you to set them and then flip summon them, which triggers a secondary flip summoning effect for several of them. They also all share the effect that they can be changed to face down defense position once per turn, meaning the units that do have a flip effect can pull them over and over again if you keep them on the field. But more importantly, the ghosts are in hiding. It's very appropriate for the holiday. Starting with monsters who do have a flip effect, we have Ghostrick Siren, Warwolf, Skeleton, Jiangshi, Yeti, Fairy, and Doll. Ghostrick Siren's flip effect lets you send the top 2 cards of your deck to the grave, and if one of those cards was a Ghostrick, you can either add a Ghostrick spell or trap from the deck to your hand, or you can change a monster on your opponent's field to face down defense position. Since she's the only level 4 monster in this deck, we're going to be running 2 copies of her to facilitate some things going on in the extra deck later. Ghostrick Warwolf's flip effect lets you burn the enemy for 100 points of damage for every set card on the field. Ghostrick Skeleton's flip effect banishes cards from the top of the enemy's deck up to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control, making it a potentially deadly card in this lineup. Similarly, Ghostrick Jiangshi's flip effect lets you add a Ghostrick monster from your deck to your hand, so long as that monster's level is equal or lower to the number of Ghostricks that you currently control. Ghostrick Yeti's flip effect lets you target a Ghostrick monster on the field and protect it from battle or card effects for the turn. Ghostrick Fairy's flip effect lets you set a Ghostrick monster in your grave on the field, and then switch one monster on your opponent's field to face down defense position for each monster on your field. Ghostrick Doll's flip effect lets you change all face-up monsters on the field to face down defense position, excluding Link monsters for obvious reasons, and then you can special summon a face down Ghostrick monster whose level is equal to or less than the number of set monsters on the field. Then we have the non-flip Ghostricks. First up, we have Ghostrick Witch, Ghostrick Yuki-Onna, and Ghostrick Neko Musume, who all have some variation on the ability that you can switch an enemy monster to face down defense position. Ghostrick Witch lets you target an enemy monster once per turn and change it to face down defense position. Ghostrick Yuki-Onna's effect activates when it's destroyed by battle, changing the monster that destroyed it to face down defense position and preventing it from changing its battle position going forward. Ghostrick Neko Musume's effect activates if there's another Ghostrick monster on your field, and whenever a level 4 or higher monster is summoned. That summoned monster is immediately switched to face down defense position. Then there's Ghostricks Jack Frost, Spectre, and Lantern, all of whom activate their effects from the hand rather than the field. Ghostrick Jack Frost's effect activates from the hand when an enemy monster issues a direct attack. That monster is switched to face down defense mode, and Jack Frost is special summoned in, you guessed it, face down defense position. Ghostrick Spectre activates when a Ghostrick monster is destroyed by an enemy attack or card effect, special summoning itself and allowing you to draw 1 card. Ghostrick Lantern activates when a Ghostrick monster on your field is attacked or when your opponent issues a direct attack. First, Lantern negates the attack, and then it special summons itself in face-down defense position. And to wrap things out, we have the 3 odd ducks, with those being Ghostricks Stein, Mummy, and Mary. Ghostrick Stein lets you add a Ghostrick spell or trap to your hand when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent. Ghostrick Mummy allows you to summon a Ghostrick monster each turn in addition to your regular normal summon, but you can't special summon any monsters except dark monsters for the rest of the turn. And Ghostrick Mary is the one card in this profile that doesn't really do anything for you when she's on the field. Her effect lets you discard her from the hand in order to special summon a Ghostrick monster from your deck in face-down defense position. But since this gives you access to your entire arsenal of Ghostrick monsters, for good measure, we're gonna throw in a second copy of this card. And that does it for our monster cards. Moving on to our spooky spells. Ghostrick Shot lets you special summon a Ghostrick from your hand or grave, then flip summon a set monster you control. This card can be banished from the grave to target one of your Xyz Ghostrick monsters on the field and attach a Ghostrick in the grave to it as an Xyz material. Then we have 3 field spells, Ghostrick Parade, Ghostrick Museum, and Ghostrick Mansion. All 3 of these share the effect that players cannot attack face-down defense position monsters, but if that's the only kind of monster on their enemy's field, they can make direct attacks over those defensive monsters. Ghostrick Parade also lets you add a Ghostrick card from your deck to your hand when an enemy monster declares a direct attack. However, big drawback, your opponent doesn't take any life point damage while this card is on the field, so you need to be careful with when you employ a strategy that uses this card. Ghostrick Museum prevents any monster you control who isn't a Ghostrick from attacking, but after calculating damage, any monster who inflicts battle damage is flipped face down into defense mode. And Ghostrick Mansion cuts all battle and effect damage inflicted by non-Ghostrick monsters in half. Then we have two field support spells, Terraforming and Pop-Up. Terraforming lets you add a field spell from the deck to the hand, while Pop-Up lets you activate a field spell from the deck if your opponent controls one and you don't. Murmur of the Forest lets you flip an enemy monster into face-down defense position, and then return all field spells on the board to the hand. Foolish Burial is a classic, letting you send a monster from the deck to the grave. Then, Terrors in the Hidden City is a continuous spell that does wonders for flip effect-based decks. It prevents the opponent from targeting set monsters that you control with card effects, and all of your monsters that are flipped face up while you control this card gain 1500 attack and defense points. If Terrors in the Hidden City is destroyed when it's on the field, it summons a monster from the graveyard in set position. Then for our avid readers, we have 4 books to read, with those being Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse, Book of Lunar Eclipse, and Book of Taiyu. Book of Moon targets one monster on the field and switches it to face-down defense position. Book of Eclipse changes all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position, but at the end of the turn, your enemy's face-down defense monsters are flipped to face-up defense position, and they get to draw 1 card for every monster that was flipped. Book of Lunar Eclipse discards a card and targets 2 face-up monsters on the field, switching them to face-down defense position. So basically, it's Book of Moon times 2, with a discard effect. And Book of Taiyu lets you flip a face-down monster face-up into attack position, meaning you can trigger a flip effect the same turn that you set a monster. And that does it for our spells. For the traps, we have Ghostrick or Treat, Ghostrick Vanish, Ghostrick Renovation, Ghostrick Break, Ghostrick Scare, Ghostrick Go Round, and Ghostrick Night. Ghostrick or Treat activates if you control a Ghostrick field spell or link monster and lets you target 1 enemy monster. For the rest of the turn, that monster can't attack, its effects are negated, and it is switched to face-down defense mode. However, your opponent can spend 2,000 life points to negate this activation and flip this card back to face down. The card says this in the weirdest, most roundabout way possible, but that's essentially what it does. Ghostrick Vanish lets you reveal 1 Ghostrick monster in your hand, and for the rest of the turn, your Ghostrick monsters and face-down defense monsters can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Ghostrick Renovation returns a Ghostrick field spell you control to the hand, and then activates another one from the hand or the deck. This card can be banished from the grave to target 1 Ghostrick Xyz monster on your field, and then special summon another one from the extra deck using the first one and its materials as the new monster's materials. Ghostrick Break activates when exactly 1 Ghostrick monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect. You can target 2 Ghostrick monsters in your grave and special summon them in set position. Ghostrick Scare lets you target any number of set position monsters you control and flip them to face-up defense position. You can then switch 1 face-up monster on your opponent's field to face-down defense position for each monster you just flipped up on your field. Ghostrick Go Round is a continuous trap that can activate one of its effects each turn during the battle phase. It can target 1 attack position Ghostrick and 1 set position monster you control, and flips their battle and face positions with one another. Or, you can flip a defense position monster you control into attack mode, and if it's a Ghostrick, you can change 1 enemy monster to face-down defense position. And Ghostrick Night is a continuous trap that prevents flip summoning. Now this can be tricky to use in this deck, but if you've been using effects that put enemy monsters into set position, this card can lock some of your opponent's heaviest hitters into a position where they're useless on the field. When this card is destroyed, your opponent can't declare attacks for the rest of the turn. Destructive Daruma Karma Cannon flips as many monsters on the field as possible to set position, and if either player still controls an attack position monster afterwards, that player's entire board of monsters are sent to the grave. Or, put simply, use this when your opponent controls a link monster to destroy all of their monsters. And last, Metaverse lets you take 1 field spell from the deck and either activate it or simply add it to your hand. And that rounds out our main deck. Moving on to the side deck, we have a few more spell and trap cards, such as Allure of Darkness, Shifting Shadows, Haunted Zombies, and Spirit Shield. Allure of Darkness lets you draw 2 cards, then banish 1 dark monster from your hand, but if you don't have a dark monster to banish, then your whole hand goes to the graveyard. Shifting Shadows lets you pay 300 life points each turn to rearrange the face-down defense position monsters in your main monster zones. Haunted Zombies lets you banish a zombie monster from either grave to summon 2 token monsters that are the same level as the banished monster, but as dark attribute zombies with 0 attack and defense. Then, when this card is in the grave, you can activate it to set it back on the field and shuffle a banished zombie monster back into the deck. You can only do this once though, because when it leaves the field again, it's banished instead of going to the grave a second time. And Spirit Shield is a continuous trap that lets you banish a fiend or zombie from the grave to negate either an enemy attack or an enemy card effect that would destroy other cards on the field. Specifically, it can do one of each, so you'd need to banish 2 monsters in a single turn to use both effects. This card goes to the grave if you don't control a zombie or a fiend card at the end of your turn. Next up, we have some non-Ghostrick monsters that can work with the rest of the deck. Scapegoat, a scary retrain of Joey Wheeler's famous Scapegoat card, is a level 1 flip tuner monster that, when flipped face up, summons as many level 1 dark zombie black sheet tokens as possible. Unizombie has 2 once per turn effects. First, it can discard a card to boost a monster's level by 1, and second, it can send a zombie from the deck to the graveyard, also to boost a monster's level by 1, allowing him to be used for both Synchro and Xyz plays interchangeably. Jack-O Bolin can summon itself by discarding a zombie. During the opponent's main phase, it can summon a zombie from either graveyard, but that monster gets banished when it leaves the field. After summoning a monster with this effect, Jack-O Bolin gets banished until the end phase. Up until now, we've had a few cards that are good for setting up Synchro plays, so let's talk about the Synchro monsters that can be made using the help of our tuner monsters. Shamisen Samsara Sorrowcat is a level 3 tuner Synchro monster who allows the user to Synchro summon during the opponent's main phase. If it's in the graveyard, Sorrowcat can return another Synchro from the user's graveyard to the extra deck to summon itself, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. Immortal Dragon is a level 6 tuner Synchro monster who appears to be an undead version of Coral Dragon with flipped attack and defense points. During the main phase, it can send a zombie monster from the deck to the graveyard to change its level by calculating the difference between its level and the level of the monster that was sent to the graveyard, and then either adding or subtracting it. If it's in the graveyard when a zombie monster on its user's side of the field is destroyed in battle, Immortal Dragon can special summon itself, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. Next, we have a monster who staved off death by consuming the souls of its many victims, the Red Eyes Zombie Necro Dragon. I believe this was the first Red Eyes Synchro monster, and oddly enough, it's our second Joey Wheeler spooky variant in this profile. It gains 100 attack for each zombie on the field and in each graveyard, and if a zombie monster on the field is destroyed in battle, Red Eyes can summon a zombie from the graveyard to its user's field. And for our last Synchro monster, we have Skeletal Dragon Felgrand, who appears to be Divine Dragon Lord Felgrand, risen from the grave after being slain in battle. When it's special summoned, it banishes any monster from the opponent's field or graveyard. If a monster is special summoned from either graveyard while Skeletal Dragon Felgrand is on the field, it can negate the effects of any other face-up monster on the field for the rest of the turn. And to round out the side deck, we remind our opponents that dueling us means facing their worst nightmares, with a series of Nightmare Link monsters! Each can be summoned with 2 or more monsters with different names, and have an effect that activates when they're summoned by discarding 1 card. If they're co-linked when they use their on-summon effect, the user can draw 1 card upon that effect's resolution. Nightmare Cerberus discards a card to destroy 1 special summoned monster in the opponent's main monster zone, and it prevents co-linked monsters on the user's field from being destroyed by card effects. Nightmare Phoenix discards a card to destroy a spell or trap card, and prevents co-linked monsters on the user's field from being destroyed in battle. Nightmare Unicorn discards a card to shuffle any card on the field into the deck, and while it's co-linked with any other Nightmare monsters on the field, the user gets to draw an additional card for each one during their draw phase. And Nightmare Griffin discards 1 card to set a spell or trap card from the user's graveyard to their field, but it can't be activated that turn. Additionally, Griffin prevents special summoned monsters from using their effects unless a link monster points to them. And that does it for our side deck. Now, normally I try to avoid loading up on multiple copies of cards in casual play decks, but there are only 5 Ghostrick extra deck monsters, and some of them really benefit from running extra copies. So, we're just gonna run 3 copies of all 5 of them and call it a day. First, we have Ghostrick Festival, a Link 1 monster that requires a Ghostrick monster as material to summon, even if it's one of your face-down monsters. It enables Ghostrick monsters on your field to attack directly when there's a Ghostrick field spell card in play. This card can be tributed to special summon a Ghostrick monster from your deck in face-down defense position. Then we have 4 Xyz monsters, with those being Ghostrick Dullahan, Ghostrick So Cute Boss, Ghostrick Alucard, and Ghostrick Angel of Mischief, which in order are rank 1, 2, 3, and 4 Xyz monsters. Dullahan gains 200 attack points for each Ghostrick you control. It can detach an Xyz material during either player's turn to target a face-up monster on the field and cut its attack points in half for the rest of the turn. If it's sent to the grave, you can add a Ghostrick in your grave back into your hand. So Cute Boss can't be attacked when there are other Ghostricks on your field. Once per turn, it can detach one of its materials to target a monster with fewer attack points than the combined attack value of all Ghostrick monsters on the field and destroy it. As a bonus, that destroyed monster's zone on the board can't be used again so long as you control a Ghostrick monster. Alucard prevents the enemy from attacking other Ghostricks or face-down monsters you control while it's on the field. It can detach a material to destroy a face-down card your opponent controls. It can also add a Ghostrick in your grave to your hand when it's sent to the grave. And Angel of Mischief can use another Ghostrick Xyz monster as its material and inherits that monster's Xyz units. This card can detach an Xyz unit from itself to add a Ghostrick spell or trap from the deck to your hand, but you may not want to do that because of its secondary effect. Once per turn, you can attach a Ghostrick monster in your hand to this card as an extra Xyz material. If you get this card up to 10 Xyz units, you automatically win the duel. So this card could be your main victory condition for your duel all by itself. And that does it for this Happy Halloween spooky deck profile. But what kind of cards are you running on this horrifying holiday? Are you playing with Ghostricks, or is there some other Titan of Terror that you're playing today? Let me know down below in the comments, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribey bell thing if you want to see more holiday deck profiles in the future. I'm also taking any and all suggestions for a Christmas-themed deck profile, so throw that in there while you're at it. You can find this deck profile available on YGO Pro, which is linked down below in the description. A huge shout out to Wham Bam Duel for helping me create this profile. You can find a link to his channel and an explanation video for this deck profile that he made, also down below in the description. Next week, we're back to our regularly scheduled protagonist deck profile videos before moving on to the likes of Seto Kaiba and the Rivals, so again, do the subscribey thing if you want to see all of that, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye!